This hustle is the truth. That's right. This hustle is the truth. I woke up this morning. I woke up this morning like uh like one is apt to do, and I have been feeling determined. I've been feeling motivated and inspired. And one of the first things I did, I mean, the synchronicities in life and the things that happen are phenomenal. And I'm in Los Angeles right now. Right now, currently, I'm in Little Tokyo, and I'm sitting outside of a place called Hakata Ramen. And they've got they got a lot of ramen. They've got Hakata ramen, spicy, dandanman, vegetarian ramen. They've got pork cutlet curry rice, karagi curry rice, takana fried rice, yaki ramen. I think I'm actually gonna go get myself some sushi a little bit later, personally. But I don't, you know, I get excited about the little things. And the one little thing that I'm excited about here is getting to China, my gosh, Little Tokyo. I just wanted to come back and visit. It's always been a spot that is highly magnetic to me, as is Chinatown. And so I woke up, I was in Encino, California this morning. I actually thought that I had an audition at 8 o'clock in the morning, but it's actually tomorrow. So I was up early and I didn't go back to sleep. I'll get that rest later. And again, I decided to drive to Little Tokyo, which is near downtown. You know, I used to haunt this place a lot before. Hey, Cecilia Grace, welcome. And as I'm driving there, I mean, I've become very used to living in LA and working in Miami in film and TV production. Seeing, it's obvious where the film and TV productions are going on. And so I just saw the whole streets blocked off, security guards everywhere, at certain points. And I saw some guys sitting in the back of one of the trucks, I think it was like the electric truck or the grip truck. I don't know what it was, but I stopped my car. I was at a red light, and I happened to just pull up right next to the truck. And I got out, walked over to the guy, and said, "Hey, where's it was the art department. Is there a lead man, an art director somewhere?" They're like, "We don't know who they are, but the truck behind, not this truck here behind us, but the one behind that, that's the art department truck." So I said, "Thank you very much." Got my car, circled around the block, and there's something in film and TV productions called base camp, and it was very clearly labeled base camp. It's where all the film and TV production people park. And I pulled right up to the gate. Well, of course. Okay, so first, a little trick that I did. I have a really nice polo style shirt with embroidering on it that says MPR, Movie Prop Rentals and Fabrication, that I got from my friend Jerry Bloom, who I started working with in music videos back in 1999 in Miami. So I put that on and I roll up to the gate, and the security guard comes up and says, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, I'm with the art. I came here to speak to the art department. Is the lead man or art director here?" And he said, "I don't know." He's like, "Everybody's at lunch right now." And sure enough, I looked to my left, and almost everybody for the crew and the talent is sitting down eating lunch. But he opens up the gate for me. He slides it open and lets me drive. So I go park in there. I walk up to a lady who was walking out. I said, "Lead man, art department, art director. There's somebody here." She said, "I don't know." She's like, "What's the deal?" I said, "Look, tell you, I'm not working on this production, but I just got into town and I am just wanting to make the connection so I can get into work." She says, "Well, do you have a card, your number, something like that? I'll pass it on." So I gave her my card, but I didn't leave it there. I knew where the art department trucks were, and the security had already let me park in the parking lot base camp, so my car was safe. All the other production vehicles and stuff like that were there. So I walked back out to the street and just started talking to people. Now, you might, if you haven't ever done anything like that before, it might seem strange to you, right? You're walking around to all these strangers on a set while they're working and asking, basically for some work to get on their crew. But you know, nobody turned me away. There was a guy walking down, and I said, "Hey, Mr. Lead Man, the art department, somebody here." He says, "I don't know who they are, but he's like," and he said, "Let me call somebody." And I said, "No, no, no. Let me tell you something before you do that. I'm not working on this production, but I am just looking to make the connection to see, if I can." And he says, "Oh, well, he just said, okay, well, just ask around." He's like, "I'm sure you'll find the art department um, people." So Um, I stood around for a little bit. A couple people passed by. A guy even walked by and made a comment to me. He looked like he was, above the line producer, and he just said, "Hey," and made a comment about. He's like, "Most of the people around here with their noses in their phones. Look at this guy. He's standing here just watching everything. He's not. His face is not stuck in his mobile device." And so I stuck around. Eventually, I saw a young guy, long blonde hair, walk up and jump up onto the art department truck. And so I walked over and said, "Hello, my name's Hakeem. I'm not working on this production, but I'm trying to make some connections. I know you guys, this is a union gig, but I want to get and start working production. I know that it takes a while, especially to get in a union and all that, but here I am." And he just was like, "Hey, well, look, give me your number." He's like, if anything comes up that I'm doing non-union or if we could use you for something, I'll call you." So I gave him my card, and he was like, "Yeah, you seem like a really nice guy." He was like, "I'll definitely, get in touch with you." And so then I started to walk away, but I got like 10 feet and I turned around and said, "John," his name was John. I said, "Will you do me a favor and just send me a text right now?" I was like, "I'm not going to bug you or anything like that, but I just want to, if I don't hear from you in a month or so, I'm just going to remind you that I exist." And he said, "That's all right." He said, "I'll text you right now." And I said, "Thank you very much." As I walked away, I got his text. He even sent me one of those contact cards where it has all his other information. And I said, "Oh, by the way, I wrote a book on art department called The Set Dresser's Handbook. It's a link on the card that I gave you on World Reading Club." And he says, "Oh, that's really awesome." It's really interesting how a lot of people, when I tell them that are even been working in the industry for a long time, they're always like really, I would say, surprised or impressed that I wrote a book about art department. But I think it gives me confidence that it was a right thing to do, in lieu of a resume. Even in some of the online forums, like there's a site called backstage.com that I got a yearly subscription to that posts jobs for both, on camera and behind the scenes hiring. In place of my resume, I just I uploaded the book there and labeled it as resume in narrative form. Um, I haven't done any resumes in a long time, although I'm building it back up because I'm starting to remember the crazy amount of jobs that I've done. I mean, even just in the less than 2 months about that I was in Miami, I was working so much, like nonstop every single day, like on different productions. Finally finishing with a Straight Talk Wireless commercial, and before doing a video with Cardi B. Well, it was actually Shakira's video with featuring Cardi B. Um, and man, a whole bunch of other stuff, events and crazy resort. This place called the Ocean Reef Club in Key Largo, where the houses are anywhere from like 4 million to $30 million. It's ridiculous, but just really great stuff. And so at least I have all that stuff to put on the resume. Um, but to see, the thing is that about that hustle, it's something that I picked up a long time ago when I first got to California in 2002. It was really easy when I was in Miami because on the very second job I ever did, I met Jerry Blome, who owns Miami Prop Rentals, or Movie Prop Rentals, the shirt that I'm wearing now. At the time, his company was called Miami Art Department, and then it was called Miami Prop Rentals, and now it's called Movie Prop Rentals to be more general for you know when people find him in the area. And so I didn't have to worry about anything. I worked with him for 3 years straight on all kinds of music videos with Ricky Martin and Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, Jennifer Lopez, Trina, Trick Daddy, Cash Money Millionaires, Uncle Luke, like all kinds of stuff. I mean, I had a really great run. It was a very fortunate run to be able to do that. Um, I mean, I worked on all kinds of stuff. So much of it that a lot of it I don't even remember. It's only starting to come back to me now that I'm sort of in this position where I'm, have cause to put together a resume. So slowly, a lot of stuff coming back. As a matter of fact, I just remembered a music video that I worked on for a band called Endo. It's a call called Suffering as I'm talking about it. So that's another thing I could put on there. So I'm going to have a pretty fat, nice looking little resume, even having a bunch of stuff I did this year in 2024. So it's looking good. But, if I had, I mean, the interesting thing about it is that, most people, and even my friend Kevin Green, he does a podcast called The Real Short Box. And their tagline is by geeks for geeks, and they talk about all things, sci-fi, fantasy, and mostly comic books and things like that. And he would be shocked when I would do that back in 2002 when we both got to California. I got here a little bit before he did, and he came a little bit later. Actually, I think he got here in like 2003. But we'd be driving around. I didn't have a car at the time. Actually, did I? I had a 93 Ford Escort, but then I got rid of it and got a 98, an 89 Ford Probe GT. Um, but either way, we were driving around, and I would say, "Look, stop, let's pull over there." And he'd be like, "What?" He'd be like, "Those people don't know us." And I would just get out and say, "Can I speak to the line producer or whoever?" And they would just let me on the sets, and he would be in awe. He'd be like, "How the hell is this happening?" And it's just because I love production work. I really love working in the art department. I love being on set. I mean, I've never, sometimes it's fun to be on camera, but I just love being on set, especially art department. The really great thing about art department, well, I'll get to that later, but it's just this hustle is the truth because it just works. Like, I mean, there are lots of people who are looking for gigs, and they'll use something like backstage.com or mandy.com and other things like that where the jobs are being posted and you submit to them digitally and maybe submit their resume or before a lot of these websites let you submit your entire contents and everything there. You'd have to show up to a place and interview or at least drop off your resume in person sometimes. But there's to me nothing like just getting on the set and just talking to people and saying, "Hey," like this guy John who was sitting on the art department truck. He had nobody, not a single person looked at me like I was crazy. Everybody was gracious. The first woman I talked to asked me for my card. The security guard just let me right in the fence. Of course, I used a little ledger domain. I put on the shirt and whatnot and just said, "Hey, I'm here to talk to the art department." But what could he do? And I thanked him profusely as I rolled out. I said, "Hey, I got to talk to who I wanted to. Thank you very much." And he said, "Yeah, no problem. You have a great day." And everybody that I talked to there was totally cool. Um, so it wasn't. So it's and the thing about it, back when I was doing it, 20 years ago, I got a whole bunch of jobs. Again, so many that I don't even remember most of them. I just did so much work just by showing up. And at the time, I did have resumes. I had them printed up from all the work I did in Miami and stuff like that. And then I had business cards. And I met these two great girls who worked in the art department that showed me a cool trick that I actually used a little bit later. Was they basically got rubber stamps made with their names on it, their number, and an art department. And then they would get like blank cardstock, sometimes like really nice cardstock, and they would just stamp their information on the card. And sometimes it would be crooked, but they would do it, like on purpose. They would never line it up straight. It would be, a little bit diagonal on the card. And at art department, they just made their own cards, and so I thought that was a great idea. So I eventually started doing that. And I actually ran into them before, and I said, "Hey, I saw one of your cards in circulation." And I was like, "That's awesome." They loved that I was inspired by their idea. But you know, I had no intention. I didn't think I was going to see any production vehicles, although it's very common in LA. I mean, I actually did see a crew working on Hollywood Boulevard when I went to go to an interview at Fiesta Cantina in West Hollywood. But I didn't really, jump on that one. I guess I wasn't really as on fire yet. I don't know if I just wasn't feeling it, but they were actually filming a commercial for the new Superman with James Gunn. So I kind of wish I would have actually talked to somebody. But believe me, when I say this, folks, I am not. Anytime I see a production crew, I'm going to find a place to park, and I'm going to find the art department, and I'm going to go right in. Right now, it's even better because I've been doing mostly art departments. So, I know what to ask for: lead man, art director, set designer, you know, and I don't have to lie to them if they say, why? Well, I want to work on a crew. I want to be able to help out. I love production. I want to get on it. And and this guy John that I met, just like you know, totally gracious, said, yeah, I'll hit you up, and was even willing to send me a text message. Of course, I told him I'm not going to bother him too much about it, but he was totally cool, and even sent me his contact card. So that little thing, about just hustling like that, it really pays off because the more I'm doing it, I mean, I'm getting calls and I'm getting callbacks for all kinds of stuff. Interestingly enough, mostly auditions to be on camera, which is mostly new to me, but um, but it's fun. I mean, I just did a court TV show not too long ago. I may have an audition next week for a speaking role for it, which is fun. But if anybody, for a lot of things, if you're looking to do something, I mean, the hesitation. I mean, of course, many people may have already heard sayings like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So, I mean, that's it. I mean, I'm meeting people, and they're all being very open to what I'm doing. And like I said, I was doing it 20 years ago and it still just works. Oh, and a note on that. I actually got verbal confirmation of that because John even said, and a few of the other people I talked to said, oh man, you're doing the right thing. Make those connections. I know how it is. They're like, it's really hard to get into the local 44. And somebody, speaking of that, I wouldn't even known about the local 44 unless somebody mentioned it and told me that there's a Facebook group for the local 44, which is the art department, that they regularly post different jobs and gigs. So now I have another lead. And I would never have known any of these things. I wouldn't have met John. I wouldn't have known about the local 44 out here because I totally forgot about it since not being here since 2017. I wouldn't have met all those different people. They wouldn't have seen my face. I wouldn't have known what was going on at all. I wouldn't, and you know what else wouldn't have happened? Even more fundamental. I wouldn't even have known that it would still work if I didn't just do that. And I was walking all over that set within the security zones. They have these orange cones set up everywhere. And I'm walking up and down in there. Nobody's saying a darn thing to me. They're just saying, hello, how you doing? But everybody else is being pedestrians. They're walking around it. They're not in the zone. Like I'm right up there all by the equipment and everything like that because that's the vibe I'm giving them. I'm there to work. I'm familiar with the business. And that's sort of that thing that sometimes you hear people say, fake it till you make it. I don't really have to fake it because I've been in the business, but still, when I was still a newbie, I mean, the very first job I did was for a French commercial in downtown Miami, and it was the only free job that I had to work. And after that, I can't remember the guy. Is his name Tom? Something Thomas? Man, I wish I remember his name. But I shadowed him. He was a PA on the job or a production assistant. And then a few months later, I called him when I lost my job doing security at this nightclub, and I said, "Hey, I'm looking for work." He told me, "Hey, you're not going to get paid, but it's good experience to put on your resume." So I showed up at the beach. Actually, it was a water park with these big water slides and stuff like that in Miami, and it was for the rap superstar Trina for her video "Pull Over." And I got to do art department, set dressing, special effects. I mean, we built scaffolding in the water to have these models, these guys that were, modeling and acting as lifeguards, so they could climb up on it and be above the water. We built a fiberglass um, table in a pool, so it was invisible, so it looked like Trina was dancing on the water. Um, and I got a whole lot of really great hands-on experience. And you know what happened at the end of that gig? Jerry Blom, the owner of now Movie Prop Rentals, liked my work ethic so much that he paid me like $175 a day for every day, which it was those are 10-hour days, so it's like $17.50 an hour, but this was back in 1999 and I was brand new to the business. I was like, yeah, I'll take it. I didn't care. I just loved being there so much. I think we shot 2 or 3 days, maybe 3 or 4 actually, on that music video in a couple different locations. It was so much fun, and that's when I got the thirst for, when art department got my blood, like, and then we just did music video after music video, commercials. Yeah, it's another one that I just remembered right now. We did a commercial for Sea-Doo, the jet skis, on a lake in Melbourne, Florida. And what's so cool about that? So first of all, the Trina video, we got to run amok in this water park. The whole thing was closed, and we were the production crew was the only people there. So we were going down the water slides and having fun and getting wet and everything like that. The Sea-Doo commercial, we got to ride these jet skis. Jerry was like, "Yeah, just open it up, man. It's like this is a whole lake. There's nothing for you to crash into." So we're doing like 80 miles an hour, whatever the top speed was on these things on these jet skis. You know, uh, drag racing, I guess, on jet skis. It was really great. But um, so here's another note about this too. So going back to the very beginning, the the French commercial that was happening. This is another thing. So this is a little bit metaphysical, or I don't know what this is. But this was before I did any work behind the scenes in production at all. So there was a movie called Any Given Sunday with Al Pacino, Jamie Foxx, and whatnot. And somehow I heard about doing getting work as an extra in the movie. So I was a sideline player, the football players in the movie, and then was a audience and stand fan extra in the movie. And I met a girl on there who was in film school at University of Miami. Her and I eventually started dating, but she was also, while she was going to school, she was working at a Starbucks in downtown Miami. And one day I drove down there with her, and I used to go out there and just sit down and read and do whatever. And I was sitting at the outside tables at the Starbucks, and these three people, two women and a guy, they were dressed mostly in black, I think. They had the guy had like this vest on with all these pockets, and they were just casually walking down the street. And I had this feeling, this urge that magnetized me and pulled me. I got up and I walked over to them, and I mean, they didn't have like a slate or like you know um radios or anything like that. They were just walking down the street, and I just went straight up to them and said, "Are you guys working on a film or something like that right now?" And so, yeah, matter of fact, we're doing location scouting for a commercial. I said, "Oh," I said, "Listen, I'd like to intern. I want to get into this work. Is it their way?" I was like, "I'll work for free." Like I put myself out there. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I wouldn't have got paid for that job. But hey, they said, "Sure, give us your information. This is where we'll be shooting. Show up. We'll put you with the production assistants, and you can shadow them, and so on and so forth." And I told my friend Kevin about it. I told this other guy Chris about it, and this guy Chris was pooping. I ain't working for free. All this other stuff like that. And the story about that is that Kevin, he did work it with me for I think 1 or 2 days over the 2 or 3 day shoot. I forget what it was. He didn't do all of them like I did, but he took the plunge and did it. The other guy, Chris, didn't, and he flopped out of the industry very, very quickly. It got to the point where I was referring and recruiting Chris, Kevin, and Lydia, the girl that I was dating, and telling them about jobs in the industry, and they were going to film school at University of Miami, which is like $30,000 a semester. They were in the School of Communications, and I was the one that was referring them and getting them on gigs with VH1 and MTV and other stuff like that, and like letting them know that was happening because I was in the loop. I did that first gig for free and got to meet people and kept the numbers of those guys who I then contacted later, and I got to work on Trina video. Did Chris do it? Who poo-pooed it? No. Kevin actually ended up working on that Endo video I talked about earlier with me, as well as a few other projects. And then he eventually worked for a company called HTV out here in California for a while until he left that company and started his own business. And then he also works on that podcast called The Real Short Box, which you guys should check out. They stream live every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific time, and it's good fun. Like they say, it's by geeks for geeks, and it's a good fun time. And But the same thing is happening here. I mean, I even got to work on as an assistant editor using the Avid for Monster Garage when it was back in the day with Jesse James, guy who what's her name? Miss Congeniality. She was dating him for a while. I got to work on that show and Plastic Surgery Before and After and Monster House. And Christopher Birkenbein, good sir. Glad to see you in here and uh, glad to know that you're here listening as well. And it's always been good to hear you also. And good to hear that you got a, a co-host for your podcast, a dash of science. And thanks again for that swag that you bought me, guys. He bought me some really cool swag. I got this cool NASA coin and some stickers and like really really cool stuff that's pretty awesome. When I got to meet Chris when he was visiting, doing some work. You know, he's a project manager for NASA, and he was at Langley Air Force Base, which I actually got cleared to be an Uber driver for that specific base. So it's kind of cool. We met like one town over, Newport News, and got to go to bookstore, of course, my favorite haunt. Uh, and but but that's the thing, you know. It's just that has gotten me, just that going to do something has gotten me further than a lot of stuff. Like just saying, you know what, I'm gonna walk up to these people and talk to them, and it's gotten me in the door. It's gotten my foot in the door to where people that I could call them later and say, hey, you know, I'm available for something. You got anything? Like when I left the security job at Club Atlantis on the Fort Lauderdale Beach, and I called these guys that I worked with, the production assistants from that French commercial that I worked on for free, then ended up being $175 a day for, you know, for 3 days, 4 days in a row, however long the music video shoot was. And then to get, here's the coolest thing about art department. What I love about art department, so I put it this way. I've never heard anybody put it this way before, but maybe they have. I wrote it in my book, The Set Dresser's Handbook, that's on worldreadingclub.com. So I think it would be, if anybody's interested in working in film and TV production, it's a good book to start. Because here's what the great thing about art department is: the wardrobe, right, dresses the talent. Art department, we dress the set. So you could have an empty room, and whatever the set designer wants it to look like by the drawings and whatever they put together. It's the job of the art department, the art director, the prop master, the set dressers, the prop assistants, the set decorators, to go in there and get all the props together and arrange them in the way that they need to look for whatever production is being shot. And so the great thing about that is, I mean, I got to work so up close and personal with a lot of the talent on these, because you have to sometimes, like I was handing Julianne Moore on the movie The Hours, like I can't even remember what it was, but certain objects and items that they had for the scene, and you have to interact with them and say, okay, this is fragile, or we have 100 of these, so you can break it because that's what it's for, or whatever, or give them a few instructions on how to use it. And you know, on the sets with Britney Spears and Jennifer Lopez, it's like you're constantly like right there with them, because you got to show them, hey, this is what you're going to use, this is where you're going to sit, this is how you're going to work. Like on the Shakira video we just did in the prop house, they built this blue horse, which didn't even look like a horse. It was just a barrel with a stick sticking out the front to represent the head, because they were going to blue screen it later and make it look like the horse. But they did have a live horse on set to shoot some of the films, but the sequences. But I guess Cardi B wasn't having it getting on a horse. She was even fussing about climbing up on top of that barrel. But but we got to be right there. You know, we're right there. To, you know, like we were building, like we had to carry in a platform for Shakira to walk out of the artificial pool that we made, and it wasn't even deep. It was like the pool was like maybe 4 inches deep, but on camera, you know, it looks like she's floating on this lake in this giant lotus blossom and everything like that. I mean, that's what I love about art department. That's the real movie magic there, when you get to deal with um, all of the props and the set design and the arrangement and making it look the way it is, and so that when you see it later on, it's just amazing, you know, to be part of that transformation. So I think if anybody wants to work in the business, I would say go for art department and look for gigs as a prop assistant, which is, you know, if we're going to talk about hierarchies, there's prop assistant would be like at the lowest end of it, which is like a PA or a production assistant. Although PAs can have various different, you know, levels of responsibility, but you have prop assistant, you have set decorators, set dressers, prop master, art director, or you got, well, before that you got a lead man, then you got prop master, art director, set designer, you know, and then those guys are the art director, prop master are above the line, and then you have the set designer and producer, right, and director. So those guys are right up there with the director, which is really great because here's once again, if oh my gosh, this car behind me just like ground their tires. Please, the way you were driving. Oh my gosh, don't get so close to my car. What are you doing? Uh, wow, take out the coin meter, not my bumper. Um, but so, but yeah, so even with all of that, I wouldn't have gotten to be. I actually got to work as an art director and hire a friend um, as a prop master for me. So I actually got to be an art director for a music video for a group called Under Pressure for a song called "Girls Be Lovin' This." Girls be loving this. Um, they never blew up or got really big, but just to have the opportunity on my resume, like within the first 6 months of being in the business, to be an art director, to be the one who also hires the prop master, who and get to bring people. I mean, it's just that's the thing about going for it. Oh yeah, Chris, I think you mentioned that before. That he says I've worked as an animated and well, I think you were saying worked in animation, right? As an animator. Yeah, I worked as an animator, cameraman, grip, and gaffer, but not in the big leagues like you. There's local stuff, public access commercials. Hey, but those are all great. I don't shy away from any of that stuff. Like I'll do public access commercials. Um, I just also hit somebody up. Like here's another unconventional thing that I just did. Right, so I got uh, to work as an audience member for a court TV show called. Oh, so by the way, spoilers, everybody. If you don't know this, if you don't want to hear about this, but it's all fake. There's a show called Equal Justice with Judge Ebony Jackson or something like that, and all of it is fake. So the audience, they're not real, public who's interested in the court case being filmed from off the street. They're all paid. A lot of wannabe actors or people who just do extra work for, their hustle, their side hustle or whatever. And the litigants are actors who do improv based on loosely based on guides they're given from the producers. And so this company called Standing Room Only, they're one of the main companies that does a lot of the audience work. So I got a text message because they also do speaking roles. So I applied for doing one of those improvised speaking roles for it because it pays a little bit more than the audience work. And I just want to be on production. I got out here in California and I want to stay here. So I'm just grabbing up whatever I can. And plus, it'll be good to get that on my reel, especially since I got 55 new professional photos to use. Like the one that's on this profile was done by a professional studio in Parkland, Florida. And so be an opportunity to have a speaking role to put on a reel. But so the one of the the casting assistants or casting directors sent me a text message and he says, hey, there's an audition on Zoom this time and the link and all that. And so I did one of those and I didn't hear from them, or else it would have been working either one of these days this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But I got another one because I applied again. And so it's possible. And I did another audition online with the casting director. And um, and so he said, yeah, well, let me know your availability. So we're shooting Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So we'll give you a call and let you know if we're going to use you. He actually said, I'll pair you up with somebody good and we'll get you going this week. So hopefully that'll work. Um, but the thing about that, so here's another little unconventional thing, or maybe something that people might not think of, maybe because they're not interested in production, being in the production side. But I responded to that text message, and so let's see, what is this text message? Where is it at? Yeah. So the text message that I got was, you know, hi, this is so and so from Standing Room Only Casting, currently casting for Core TV. Please confirm your Zoom audition for today, March 6th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please confirm your participation by replying to this text. Looking forward to seeing you. Thanks. And then Of course, I responded and went. And then after that, um, that was all done. Who knows? I did the audition. Who knows if I would hear from them again? But I knew the person's name because it's in the text. And so I just sent a message a little bit earlier today. I said, "Hello, I'm grateful in advance for any time you take to respond to me. I hope this message finds you well. My name is Hakeem Alexander. I've been working in production since 1999 and was wondering how to contact Barry or whomever I should speak to about the possibility of helping out as part of the SRO staff and production crew. Any feedback is appreciated." And then I said, "This is a book I wrote about some of my production experience. If that helps to show, my experience, thank you." And I gave the link to the book. And that was at 9:51, and at 9:52 she says, "Hi, I'm definitely gonna send I'm gonna definitely send this to our casting director. Thank you so much for sharing." Right? So I said, "Many thanks again. I appreciate this so much." And she, of course, on the iPhones you can like or love those comments. So she liked, "Many thanks again. I appreciate this so much." So again, that's not may not seem like a standard thing for people to do. Like, her dealings with me was as an audience member, like an extra, right? Just get me on audition to see if I could possibly get a speaking part. But I want to work in production. It's just, to me, I like it a lot more, or I don't know if I do like it more or not. I just like to be part of the creative process. Period. Um, Even one of the jobs that I did, I worked on a movie called "Bringing Down the House" with Steve Martin and Queen Latifah, and I was working in the art department in that movie. And uh, for some whatever reason, the producer grabbed me from the art department and said, he handed me like a wad of cash. It was like a couple $1,000s, real money, and said, "I want you to stand in and be a feature in this. This is the scene." And it was a party scene with Steve Martin. They were all gambling. Queen Latifah, there was like a whole gambling thing going on, and I'm sitting there with all this money in my hand. And Steve Martin comes over, puts his hand on my arm, and is like, "Hey, what the hell is going on?" And then I kind of give this face, and be like, "Oh man, what the f," and then walk away. And so, and that was fun. That I got to get taken from behind the scenes to do a little, you know, on camera, a little featured extra thing, you know, and that happens. I don't know how often that happens to people. That's fun. I mean, I like all parts of the creative process. And another funny thing about that, here's what's really interesting. Yesterday, I got access to my storage unit that I have here in California in Encino, and I went in and I went to go grab some recording equipment and some other stuff for my camera and for some microphones and things like that. And there's this braided cord. It's red, white, and blue that I made that I would wear it drape around my neck like some kind of unconventional scarf or whatever. And I just put it on and started wearing it. And interestingly enough, like, it's the only one. I made 4 of them, but it's the only one that I could find in there. It was just sitting on top of stuff. And what's really crazy about that is, here's a cool coincidence. Facebook sent me a message about memories. And on that day, March 7th, yesterday, 11 years ago, there's a photo of me that I posted on Facebook making some funny face with those same exact chords on, the same exact ones, 11 years ago. And also, the memory showed me my friend India Nicole sent a screenshot of the movie Bringing Down the House. And in that movie, I'm wearing those same effing chords. Those red, white, and blue chords. I should actually post those memories on Facebook from them. But it's just kind of hilarious how um, that's a crazy coincidence to me that I just happened to get into my. I mean, I've been here since March 2nd, but I wasn't able to get access to the storage one because I don't have the keys, and so I had to wait for a locksmith to get there. Fortunately, I didn't have to get the locksmith. The storage unit, they had a bolt cutter that cut it off because for some reason, I guess I didn't have one of those disc locks on there, but after they cut it off, I did put one on there. But I just happened to get in that morning and find those cords and just happened to put them on and then go to Facebook and see uh, that they that there's memories with me wearing the same thing. Another funny coincidence is I got my Tascam multi-track recorder from out of the storage as well, and a couple microphones and one of the guitars I had in there. And out of the blue, I didn't even talk about it. So I don't, there's no AI possibly listening to this, but I get an email from Tascam talking about, uh, downloading some new software for free. Just normally $99, but we're going to give it to you for free for, to upgrade your sound system, whatever. So I think those funny coincidences are interesting. But maybe I'm making some moves and shaking up the universe by being so bold, right? Like, I mean, for real, this hustle is the truth. Like nothing happens if again, repeating like I said before, you may have heard, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And so I am having, opportunities. Like a lot of people used to say, you're really lucky or you're privileged or this and that. But I just, like Earl Nightingale said in his recording, The Strangest Secret, if you don't find opportunities, then make them. Right. And so I look, if what's the worst that could happen? Somebody say, no, you smell funny, get away from me. Never work in this town again. Right. Just because I'm gone on set and say I want to work in the art department. I mean, it's a completely innocent thing. You want to work. You love doing the work. So, I mean, what can they possibly really have to say about that? No, we're not looking for anybody. I mean, the the harshest pushback I got today by going on that set was somebody telling me, "Well, this is a union job, so if you're not in the union, there's really nothing we can do." That was it. Other than that, everybody was like, "Hey, give me your card. It's nice to meet you. Seem like a nice guy. It'd be great to work with you. Here's my number." So, and on and on and on. That's kind of the story of my life. Just going for something. And for the most part, pretty much all the time, the result, at least to me, is positive and beneficial because I make contacts and connections. I mean, I met somebody on the set of the Shakira music video, and we exchanged information. And when I got out here to California, I sent a text and said, "Hey, I'm in California now. I know you were getting back from Jamaica from the other production you're doing, but if there's any way that I can help out in production, please let me know." And she says, "Hey, um, the director doesn't have anything right now, but I'll definitely let you know as soon as possible." And voila, there's that. I mean, I nobody was really exchanging numbers on set except for maybe there was one other person working in the art department with me that said she was going to be out in California and that we should go hiking. Um, she's going to be working the camera for a show called Ballers that I think Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, is in. But I have those two contacts, and who knows what will happen with that? If nothing else, you know, they'll just tell me there's nothing I can work on with them. But that's one thing. The union is a beast. I just actually saw somebody walking down the street earlier with a T-shirt that said um, something like Writers Guild is on strike or something like that. I don't know if that's true at this moment, but he was wearing a shirt. So, but that's the hustle is real. I don't know if I have anything more to say on that. I don't know if anybody has any more commentary on it, but it's um it's a really fascinating approach that happens with me when I do it. Um, but yeah, he says, Chris has found you. I'm bringing down the house. Yep. So I was in that little scene there. Um, and another thing, it kind of reminded me because Daryl with the Dashes. I don't know if it was earlier today or if it was yesterday, but he was talking about how some people say things like "that's not my job," and so they just leave things undone because it's not part of their particular job description. But another thing that's really interesting that's happened with me by not acting that way, I've actually gotten more money. That's another interesting side benefit of the so-called going the extra mile. So the same place that told me that I didn't ask for it. I was leaving that job. I put my 2 weeks notice to go leave from Fiesta Cantina in West Hollywood to go work in operations as a yoga advisor at Yoga Works in West Hollywood, right down the street. And he told me, he says, "Hey, good luck with everything. I've already submitted your rehire paperwork. So if you ever need a gig when you get back in town, it's yours. And sure enough, I came out here, and the second day I was here, I met with the general manager, and he hired me on the spot. So tonight is my first night I'm working there. Another little entertainment industry job working as a host at this place. It's a very, very lively, crazy, insane place in West Hollywood. Fortunately, it's one of my favorite places to work because it's a gay bar, and all the other places I've worked, people want to fight you. These guys just want to give you hugs and flirt with you, which is much more to my liking because I don't ever have any concern about any violence erupting. I just want to party. But it's a really great, fun place to work. So I got to go there in a couple hours at 7 o'clock. Um, but yeah, at that place too, a lot of the security guys at the time when I was working there from 2015 to 2016 used to say, "Why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? That ain't your job. Don't do that." We got people for that. And what they were referring to was the fact that the place was busy all the time, like super busy all the time. And so there were very seldom anywhere for anybody to sit. If people wanted to come in and sit and have some food, because they had really great food, really great Mexican food, um, there would be nowhere for them to sit. So they would have to stand up, maybe get a drink at the bar, and they wouldn't be seated for a while. They'd have to wait. But a lot of times I noticed that this was because the the barbacks and the bartenders, they were so busy they didn't have time to clean out the tables. So people would come up, I'd say, "How many in your group?" I would look around, I'd be like, "Oh, come walk over to me with this table so you can save your spot." They would walk over to me to the table. If there was somebody else working at the front door with me, I would say, "Hey, can you just hold this for me?" I would go over, I would clean off the table, scrape off the food, the trash, put the the plates and whatever in the bin, and whatever had to go in the trash, go in the trash, and then very quickly grab a rag and wipe down the table. And the people, the patrons, the guests were really grateful for it. They got to sit down, they didn't have to wait. And you know what ended up happening? After just a few days of me doing this, both the barbacks, which surprised me, and the bartenders would tip me at the end of the night. They would give me money and be like, "Thanks for helping out." And this wasn't happening to anybody else because it wasn't their job. And not on top of that, I would get tips of 20, 50, and $100 from guests who would come in, like ridiculous. And this would happen almost every single day. That the bar staff, the bartenders, and the guests were giving me money. So on top of the little bit of money that I was making, uh, hourly wage, I was getting paid more money in cash because people were appreciative of me, not just poo pooing that that's not my job, or like the guy Chris who didn't want to work for free on the French commercial that was shooting in downtown Miami. "I don't want to work for free." Why? Because you're a film student at University of Miami, like what, and then you know didn't get him anywhere. So there's something to be said about just taking the bold step, and that's what I mean by that this hustle is the truth, because it gets results, and I wouldn't be surprised if it gets results in other places too. I mean, uh, lots of things that I've done, I've just hustled. I'll continue just a little bit more because I'm kind of excited about this, but this even worked as a group fitness instructor and a personal trainer. So when I also first got out to California, um, there was there was a place that's no longer around. Just like unfortunately, Yoga Works closed down a couple of years ago when I was in China. I heard about it. This place was called Bodies in Motion, and so Kevin and I and Chris had an apartment in Tarzana, California. And Chris, it just turned out to be that that's just who he is. He was really not very, I don't know what the word you would use, but he wasn't very enthusiastic, or there's a word right on the point of my brain ready to speak itself, but he just wasn't very passionate or enthusiastic or eager to do anything. And I had a year-old uh, personal trainer certification, which I can even go further back than that. Like I remember I wanted to train people so bad that when I was hanging out at the University of Miami with my girlfriend, and that's where I met Chris and Kevin, I would go out to the intramural fields where they would practice different sports just for fun, or sometimes the official sports teams of the school would practice. And I would just talk to people. I would just start doing capoeira out there, and then people would come up and I'd say, "Hey, I'll train you. This is how much it costs." And I got some really inexpensive, like $99, like personal trainer certification online from something that used to be called the IFA, or the International Fitness Association, or something like that, which no longer exists. But just did that, just put myself out there. I just wanted to do capoeira, and then found a bunch of people to train with me, and was getting paid for it. And then, so fast forward 2004, we're in California. I remember I got up from our apartment that was on Collins and walk to Reseda Boulevard, and walk south on Reseda Boulevard to Ventura. And I walked 2 hours to the west, and then turned around and walked back to the corner. There was a Starbucks there, and would get some water. I'd rest for a minute, and then I walked 2 hours in the other direction, and I found a gym called Bodies in Motion. And I went in there. I met this girl, Rachel. She was the fitness manager at the time, and she hired me right on the spot. She's like, "I like what I see. Uh, this is really great. Da 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 da. Can you start tomorrow?" And so I started. And I started training people. Started getting clients. I met this really cool guy, Phil, who was like this old school trainer who trained with like a lot of bodybuilders and just like put people through hell in their like fitness assessment. He had this really crazy fitness assessment that he did, um, but he taught me the ropes of being a new personal trainer in uh, a big facility. And uh, After a while, I had a good set of clients. I was signing up people every day and training people every day. And then uh, one one day I was with a client, and there's a room. I used to call it the forest of heavy bags, because it was these big heavy bags that would hang from a chain on the ceiling, and some of them would be chained to the floor. So they would go from the ceiling to the floor, and that's what they would do boxing and kickboxing classes. And there were like 30 of these bags in rows in this room. And so uh, we walked into the room one day because there was a water fountain in there. She said she was thirsty, so we walked in the room, and then I was talking to her about setting up the next appointment. So we set the next appointment, said her goodbye. She left. I turned around. There's a bunch of people, like 20 people standing in the room, and I said, "Hey guys, good morning, hello." So what are you guys doing? I said, "Kickboxing." I said, "No, you're not. You're standing around." And they said, "Well, our instructor's not here yet. He's 7 minutes late." And I said, "Do you mind if I start the class for you until he gets here?" And they said, "We don't care. We just want our class. This is what we came here for." So I taught the kickboxing class. The instructor never showed up. Anthony, who was the group fitness director, was so thankful for it that he paid me for the class. And he says, "I'm going to put you on the schedule as a sub just in case if anything like this, if we ever need somebody to fill in again, you'll be the first person I call." A couple of days later, somebody needed a boxing instructor. He says, "Can you teach boxing?" I was like, "Yeah, to me, it's just kickboxing without the kicks." So I got to substitute a boxing class. Not long after that, he asked me if I could do yoga. I straight up lied and said, "Yes, I'm a yoga teacher." I went and I bought a yoga book that's still my yoga Bible to this day by TKV Desikachar, called The Heart of Yoga. I was just in my storage warehouse and I saw that I actually not only have that book, but I have a couple of books by that guy. I loved his writing so much that I even made my own brand of yoga called Dream Action Yoga, using a line from that book as my tagline that says, conditioning the exposing the conditioned personality. So DAY, Dream Action Yoga, exposing the conditioned personality. And but I got that book. I think I got like a yoga DVD. I went on YouTube and looked up yoga videos, and the class wasn't until another week. So I went to a couple of yoga classes, and I put together my own yoga program. I like practiced it at home. I went out and got a yoga mat, and I went home and I timed myself and how long it would take to do the movements and to get into them, and what would be long enough for people to hold, and so on and so forth. And it got to the point where people were saying that I'm the best yoga teacher they've ever had. And I've still to this day, I haven't gone through any of the Yoga Alliance training or anything like that. I learned from books, videos, and constantly going to yoga teachers' classes. You know what happened after that? When a Mat Pilates instructor needed a sub, I subbed a Mat Pilates class. Same thing. Watched Mat Pilates videos. Went to Mat Pilates classes. learn the basic forms of mat Pilates. Now, there's certain things that I wouldn't do, like one, because I don't like it. I've never taught any spin classes. I just, for some reason, I do not like stationary bike classes, and it's like people are on speed in those classes, and whoa, whoa, and it's hooting and hollering. There's like this freaking techno music, and it's just not my cup of tea. Um, I also don't do Pilates on the equipment, like the Wonder Chair and the barrel and the I forget what the other one is called. But I did take 6 months of lessons from a certified Pilates instructor named Heather on all that stuff like that. But I just wasn't my thing to teach. I like more calisthenics based stuff like that. But again, there's another industry it worked in by me just putting myself out there, and then, but I didn't also just say that I could do something. I did the crash course and figured out, well, I'm going to do this. And I worked at that gym from 2004 until a few months before they shut down. I didn't know they were shutting down, but something was afoot. Um, but I quit in January of 2013, 9 years later, and then in May that year they shut down. They went out of business. But I worked there for 9 years, and nobody ever once asked me for a certification. Not a single time. No one asked me for my personal trainer certification. Expired in 2005. Nobody ever asked me for one again. I never had a yoga certification, a Pilates certification, or any other certification like that. The only thing I kept up with was first aid, CPR, and AED. And a lot of people don't know this, but having those certifications is not actually a legal requirement. It's just that a lot of gyms will not hire people. That's what they ask for. They ask for those certifications. But I haven't had one, and I've worked for years doing it. I even taught yoga in China and created my own program out there and made my own certificate in China because I taught so many hours out there. It was ridiculous. I taught like 2,000 hours of yoga when I was in China. So and that's what I just put on my certificate. I did my own program. I got videos of it, and that's that. I mean, but again, unconventional ways of the hustle of just finding ways to do what you want to do. I mean, if you really want to do something, you do it. Don't wait for somebody to tell you. I mean, of course, this is not, you're not going to try to go perform brain surgery or be a doctor like Leonardo DiCaprio and Catch Me If You Can. That's not the extent that I'm talking about. But there are certain things that you can do where none of that stuff is necessary. I mean, I've got three people at least that I know. Actually, if I think about it, four people, no, five. If I keep thinking about it, it'll probably a dozen people that I know that went to University of Miami's film school, and none of them are working in the business today. I still am. None of them. They went to school for it. They paid $30,000 a semester for it, and they're not working in the business. One went on to get a PhD in anthropology. Another one is selling life insurance. Another one got locked up in jail for beating up his girlfriend. Another one is a motivational speaker and an author, which is cool. Um, you know, Another one, she's a wellness coach, which is also cool. He keeps in touch with me regularly. She's actually traveling around Asia right now and hit me up and said, "Hey, it would be awesome if you were out here. Can you tell me some stuff about this and that?" But yeah, even, look, the other thing that I do to fill in the gap sometimes is I work security jobs. And I've even had really ridiculous things happen by unconventional activities and that as well. But I gave examples from all of them. Film and TV in the art department, just I see a production going on, and I don't care. I'll find a way, park my car, get off the bus, and just walk over and be like, "Hey, who's the line producer, or who's the director, or or who's hiring? I want to talk to that person. I work in art department, or I want to be a PA. Just get me in here. I just want to work." And it has not failed me. Uh, the whole thing of being able to teach yoga and mat Pilates and boxing and kickboxing and boot camp classes and everything under the sun just because I said I'll do it. I ended up having more personal training clients than all of the other uh, personal trainers combined. Just like when I was in China, I signed up more students than all of the other teachers combined. Um, I uh, was teaching more classes and more variety of classes than all of the other instructors at the gym at my own pace. Because, see, I was a sub. So if I didn't want to, I didn't have to. I basically worked on how I felt and how much money I wanted to make because it was every single day, especially in California where people are in the entertainment industry and they can get called away for an acting gig or something else, whatever they were doing. So very regularly, I was teaching yoga classes, Pilates classes, boxing classes, whatever boot camp classes because somebody was out doing something else. And they'd call me, and you know what? I would almost always say yeah because what the heck else am I supposed to do? And it got me, I was really, really super fit because of it. I mean, it was like I was working, I was getting paid, and I was having fun because I love it. And that's the result of that kind of hustle is that it just makes things happen. But again, there's a limit to faking it. I mean, I went out and did the work. I went to the classes. I bought the books. I watched the videos. I meditated on it. I wrote about it. I made sure that I was up to speed. I paid attention to the pace and the patterning of what the instructors were doing. I paid attention to certain sequences, but then I made it all my own to the point where, you know, people would ask me, are you a Kundalini yoga instructor? What's your style? I'm like, I don't know. I just call it dream action yoga. They're like, oh, it just seems like Kundalini but I would normally just say it's pranayama because I really just focus on breathing as the primary focus and letting the movement follow that. But, you know, um, that's, that's my side hustle. That's my hustle story. And, it has done nothing but good for me, you know, for me being a nervous Nelly and anxious Annie all the time. I continue to make stuff happen somehow, some way. No matter where I go, I'm able to. I mean, this is what's really ridiculous about this is that not only did the Anna, the manager at YogaWorks, write me a glowing letter and saying good luck when you go to China, but the job that I had before that said I already put in your rehire paperwork so you can come back whenever you want. Um, and then here it is, 2024. Mind you, I left Florida in 2002 after working with Jerry for 3 years. And when I was here with Floor, or there with Floor in 2016, we were sitting at a Barnes and Nobles on US 1 in Fort Lauderdale, Federal Highway, and I was reading a book and it was like some success book, and it was talking about dealing with successful people, and it says one of the things that they don't have a lot of sometimes is time, and so you got to be short and to the point with them. So as I was reading that, I just had this light bulb go off, and I immediately called Jerry, and I said, "Hey Jerry, this is Karate Kid," because that's what they used to call me because I used to do a bunch of kicks and capoeira stuff all the time. They used to just call me Karate Kid, and I was like, "I'm calling you for two reasons." I said, "Letting you know I'm in town and I'm ready to work." And he didn't skip a beat. He said his exact words were, he was like, "Well, Hakeem, I'm in luck, so you're in luck. I got work all the way from now all the way until whenever." Floor and I arrived in Fort Lauderdale on November 1st, the day after Halloween, because we left Virginia Beach on Halloween night, got there on November 1st to Florida, and by November 4th, I was already working and just worked nonstop with Jerry until we left to go to come out to California and then go to China for the second time. And then I'm out in China for, until 2021, go to Virginia Beach. I'm there for 2 years. So haven't seen Jerry since 2017, right? And here I am 7 years later. I come back, and as soon as I get down to Miami, a couple days later when I'm settled, I visit my mom and all that, I call them up, and guess what? A few days in, I'm already working. I worked there until the last gig I did. I forget when it was. It was a Straight Talk Wireless commercial that we had to wrap on a Sunday, and then I took a little bit of time off, looked at my finances, and said I got to get to California, and I came out here. And you know, I think a lot of people, if you're feeling discouraged about stuff, I think that even though it might be hard, and I might sound like it, but I am not an extrovert by any means. It may seem like it, but I'm not. I learned something when I was in the Hypnosis Motivation Institute getting a degree in clinical hypnosis, um, that, they have different, you know, ways to put people on different spectrums, right? And, they have what's called physicals and emotionals. And physicals are people who would probably be considered the extroverts. And those are the people, though, who are really concerned about how they look, for the most part, are very concerned about their physical health, and but mostly it's like a fear of of destruction to their physical well-being. And these are the people who their their one or more of their parents showed their affection for them by lots of hugging, kissing, and lots of physical touch is how they showed their affection. So physicals, if they don't get that, they don't feel good. Whereas emotionals are more people who got verbal praise and were told that they're smart, and were told that they're good and things like that. And if they don't get that, they don't feel good. Well, I think I got a little bit of both, but for some reason I swayed on the spectrum of being an emotional, where um, I mean, I don't know. I might be pretty balanced though, because I share a lot of those traits. And it's not a perfect rating system, but it does work pretty well, because you usually give these tests to your clients before you do a hypnotic induction, and you do it based on whether they respond more uh, directly or to indirect uh, suggestions. Um, but one thing about emotionals, even though they're not necessarily extroverts, when they are confident about something or knowledgeable about something or really excited about something, then they will appear on the surface to be what people would call an extrovert. But there are a lot of introverts or emotionals who you wouldn't know. You might say they're an extrovert because of how expressive and vibrant and excited and assertive they are. But it's because they're in their zone. They're in that flow state. And you know, I very often get like that when I'm speaking or recalling these different stories, because sometimes a lot of this stuff, it just blows my mind. Like and the reason why it kind of blows my mind is because so many people around can't believe it. So they're constantly living in this world that they're sharing with me. They're like, "You did what? How are you teaching all of these different classes? You have no certifications. How do you have so many clients? Your certification expired like 3 years ago. Like, what is going on here? Why are so many people working with you?" Or how did you get that job again on that movie? Like, what did you do? "Oh, I just walked on the set and asked for it." It's just like that. That people can't wrap their minds about it. Like, how that's not how it happens. You have to make an appointment and fill out a resume and an application and meet with the person in the office, and you don't just walk on the set. Uh, but I did. That's exactly what I did. That's how I do it. I'm doing it right now. Just did it earlier today. And not only that, I've moved on to hijacking other channels of communication by a message to a talent coordinator, where I just said, "Hey," and they were just like, "Thank you for sharing this with me. I'll give it to the casting director." You know, it wasn't like they were just like, "Ew." Look. So, but it constantly surprises me, I guess, because of so many other people just the way that they express, like they say to me, "What? You got the job? How?" Or so many different things that, I mean, I just could go on and on. Like I started my own kickboxing program in Virginia, and just the way that happened, it's just so many ridiculous things. Like the like I started a job at the front desk at this place called One Life Fitness in Virginia Beach, and it's so crazy. Like my sister happened to know the general manager, and within 1 week of me being there, I got there on September 4th of 2021 from China. Well, actually, I went from China to LA. I thought I was going to be out here first, and then I just wasn't feeling it, so I went to Virginia Beach, where my sister lives. She's retired from the Navy after 20 years, and within I did the online application. Because I didn't have a personal trainer certification, this place was running a completely different day. It didn't know me from anything, so I took a front desk job. And by September 11th, exactly 1 week after I arrived in town, I was working there at the front desk. And on September 10th, I was in there, met the the guy who hired me. I forget what his name is now because he quit very shortly after I got there. And that day I said, "Hey, can I work out?" He was like, "Yeah, go ahead, have at it." And I found out later that they don't usually let anybody use the facilities like that for free unless they've been working for like a probationary period. But there I was, just beating up the heavy bags, like before I even started my first shift. So there's that. I had to keep on hounding my sister about it. Like I would have been working there like day two if she didn't take her sweet time. Like I was the one that was pushing for it, and that's again to my point. The hustle is the truth, right? Like I was the one. Like I hounded my sister so much. I was like, "Where is the gym? I'm not familiar with this area. Where the hell is it?" Find out it's like 1.9 miles. I could have walked there. She could have showed it to me. I would have went there myself. She didn't even tell me the name of the gym or anything, but I guess she wanted to make the introduction herself and find out when Liz was there or whatever. But I eventually uh, I worked there from September 11th until uh, in November. I got my group fitness instructor certification, and then like maybe a little while after that, it wasn't that long. I got my personal trainer, or one of them I got first. I can't. Yeah, I think it was the group fitness one, but I had already been making like building really good relationships with people from working at the front desk. That day one, I signed up 3 clients on the first day. That right out the bat, before my personal trainer paperwork had dried off the printer. Like I was already signing up people that they couldn't even pay me yet. That I had to write down my my hours on a piece of paper and keep track of it myself for like 2 weeks because whatever their stupid system that they were doing didn't have me in the system yet. So when I would try to log on the computer to look at uh, to put clients in, I couldn't schedule anybody. I couldn't do it because I wasn't in the system yet. And fortunately, this really nice lady, Marley, was a trainer there. She let me use her login information just so I could get familiar with the system. But I mean, again, in that situation, I would do things that the other trainers weren't doing. There would be a certain place where there was this personal trainer area, and there's a personal trainer desk, and they would all hang out there, or they would just all hang out there just talking to each other, like leaning over, having conversations about whatever. Me, I would be walking like a shark around the gym. Now, I didn't do one of the things that they asked us to do because I don't like to do that. But one of the things they recommend that trainers do is go to, okay, you know what? I'm talking so much. I need to crack open one of these kombuchas here before my tongue falls out. But I'm telling you this because I know for a fact that somebody's got to hear this and it will get them off their butt because it's working. Like this is all stuff that I've actually done. I'm not theorizing about it. Like it happens and it's happening right now. And so there was this other area. It was another desk that the trainers would normally just put their bags or store like protein powder or there would be cards on the desk and nobody would ever be there. So I would come in, I would clock in, and I would say hi to the people at the front desk. I would say hi to the folks who were working in the childcare area. I would walk into every different room and say hi to people. Just say hi. I wouldn't go up to them and do anything else. Just say hi. How you doing? And a lot of them recognized me from the front desk. Were like, "Oh, you got the trainer shirt on. Like, congratulations." Blah blah blah. A lot of them would see me studying at the front desk. I'd have the books out there, and I'd be, the big old National Academy of Sports Medicine's gigantic hardcover book, and the other one. And so, they were my cheerleaders throughout this. When I was like, "Yeah, I've been a personal trainer. I've never worked at a front desk at a gym before, but here I am." And so, one of the things that the fitness director would ask is to go up to people and say give them pointers about their workout and say, hey, if you need help, da da da. But I don't like that. I never like that approach. Didn't work for me. I just felt like I was bothering people because I know I'm kind of a jerk with that. Like if I was working out and somebody was telling me about my form, even though I can't say that like like all my form and everything that I do is perfect, but but you know what would happen? Because I would be walking around the gym, like I would walk into every room. I would. when I would see that the group fitness instructors were taking a break or resetting, I would walk through the room. I would say hi to the people who were participating, and I would say hi to the instructor, and then I would walk out the door, and I would walk around the gym, and I would just be making laps, just walking slowly, just looking around, not saying anything to anybody, just said hi. And eventually, when I would take a pit stop at that desk in the back, away from where all the other personal trainers were hanging out, like that whole, uh, you know, what is it? The whole, what is that? The trope of the, the workers gathering around the water cooler. All right, Chris. Thanks for listening, brother. I appreciate you being here all this time. He's headed out. I'll catch you later, brother. But that whole idea, that people gathering around the water cooler, well, I would be at the other one where nobody was, and people would come up to me and ask me to help them out. And that's how I would sign up clients. I had a client who she couldn't sit down on her front porch and get up on her own. By the time she finished with me, she was able to squat all the way down and get up. 60-year-old something woman from the program that I put together just by watching how she moved. And I put together a progressive um, program for her to be able to get her to walk to that when she ended her session, not because she wanted to, but she kind of got pressured into uh, by the some of the salespeople to add it on and continue. But she was crying because she couldn't continue work with me because I got her to be able to walk better and to move better and all this other stuff like that. And but I was just getting people coming to me. She was one of them that was assigned to me, but I would rather have gotten my own clients because they pay more like that. You don't have to split the commission with the person who signs them up. But I could go on example after example about not doing what everybody else is doing. Again, I'll reference Earl Nightingale from The Strangest Secret. He says, look at what everybody else is doing and do the opposite. It's like that's how you'll succeed. So, and you got to tweak it to your own liking, but it works and it's been working. And I've just gone from getting to the United States after being away for years, you know, losing my wife, feeling the worst kind of grief ever, to this day. I just know that there's nothing that I will feel as hurt as that. Like everything else feels light to me. But coming back, oh God, my nose is stuffy. And riding my bike 20 miles, well, actually, a bike that my brother gave to me, to a job where the kitchen burned down, and I was left with this crummy personal training job. I eventually ended up not liking it. Left, opened up my own kickboxing program, and then got a better gig paying me 3 times as more as the place where the kitchen burned down, through another strange connection that happened. Like it just fell out of the, like it was just everything just linked up right on time. So, but it might look like that, but I was always active and out there. And even when I wasn't riding my bike to work, I was riding all around the city. I was riding to work, to the gym. I was riding here, riding there. I rode all the way out to the beach. Man, I visited all the places that Flora and I used to go to together. Man, we went so many places. We used to walk to my sister's house all the way out to the beach, whatever 5, 6 miles it was. We just, man, like everywhere I go, she's here with me because there's no place that I've been that she wasn't. Like we did everything together all the time and just grew in love more and more, like with every day. It's awesome. And she definitely changed my life for the better. She helped me. Like I was just so inspired by being around her, and I'm honored that she let me be a part of her life for all that time. But and I also just, I those memories and that love, it fueled me. I'm empowered by it. But I mean, there's just so many things. I mean, like riding the bike 20 miles actually helped me to get my body back into shape because I was heavier than I'd ever been when I got back to the United States. Like I was drinking myself to sleep in China for like 7 months straight. And then one day I decided to stop, started going to the gym again and everything. And I got back to the United States. I was 221 pounds. Like, what? But riding my bike 20 miles, through 3 or 4 days in a row to get to that job, I dropped 30 pounds and got back to my so-called, what you would say, fighting weight. I was down to 190, then now to 185, and it was good for me, and it felt good, and it was like something that I had to do. It wasn't easy riding an hour and 15 to an hour, 15 minutes to an hour and a half to go stand for 5 hours at a security job, checking people's IDs and dealing with drunk people trying to fight each other, and then riding back another hour and a half after that. That was a full 8 hour shift. 3 of those hours were just traveling on a bicycle. But, got the other gig, put some money aside. Fortunately, I didn't have to, but I got a used car, 2014 Toyota Camry. Drove the hell out of that thing, put a couple $1,000s in the bank, and then bought a brand new car. That's way more efficient. It's like I'm driving a freaking video game. But all because it just needed to be done. What is this? I'm going to give you a reminder to fill out birth surveys when you get the chance. Okay. Uh, Speaking of, that's from Uber. I also got voted to be the Uber crew member for the southern region, where I get to be the liaison between all the Uber drivers all over the country, and go to meetings to discuss the pain points and different issues that Uber drivers have with Uber corporate. When I was in Miami, I got to go to this great meeting where all like there were like a dozen people from Uber corporate that were there, and we got to speak to them and and lobby on behalf of the drivers to try to make the app and the system and the pay and everything better. Um, and just on and on, just all these different things. Like it never ends. But it's because I guess I'm just relentless. Like if I find a way somehow to survive, and then a lot of times that turns into thriving because I'm not. I just and you know what? Here's the thing too. I actually don't actually feel happy or good a lot of the times. Simply because I'm dealing with grief in my own way. But the one thing that I do know is that I would be a lot worse if I didn't have all the resources that I've earned and the things that I've gained by being such a whirlwind of Tasmanian devil activity. You know, like I just, if I didn't have the resources that I have, then I don't know what my mindset set would be, because now I'm able to create, I'm able to write, I'm able to compose, I'm able to record, I'm able um to make music, I'm able to write a podcast, to um to edit, to write books, to be able to just to live my life. I mean, there's nothing else for me to do. But like I said, I think that if I didn't do all this activity, some people say, the what is it, the idle mind is the devil's playground or some nonsense like that. But that would be, one of the many reasons that people should be encouraged to, no matter what, just to use this term, to fight for what it is that you want. And it's somehow like, I've heard this other saying that says God helps those who help themselves. Well, that's what it seems like, right? It looks like that, but there's there's definitely a connection. People, in the book The Science of Getting Rich, or Wallace D. Wallace talks about the advancing man. He says, well, I'll say the advancing person. That people feel that energy from you when they know that you're going to get what you need to get what you want to get, and you're going to work hard for it no matter what. It seems to just open the energy field for you. And when I wrote something a long time ago. It was saying something like the easy way is the hard way, and because there's not a lot of things that beat hard work. And it does, and the thing is though, is that I don't do a whole lot of things that I don't want to do. Like I've picked three industries that are kind of related to stick myself into that I do all the time. And that's working in the entertainment industry, right? With doing production work in the art department, which is sort of related to working doing security for nightclubs because I'm constantly around partying and dancing people all the time, and then working in fitness and self defense, and in the way that I do it, and all of these things, I'm around a lot of people all the time. As a fitness instructor, I'm having to guide and direct and help people through their workouts. Doing security, I'm having to check people's IDs and make sure and keep my eye on them and make sure that everything's running smoothly. And in the entertainment industry, it's constant action. Move this prop, make this prop, break that prop down. You know, um, but these are all things that I enjoy, or at least the most tolerable things for me to do, other than like a lot of jobs I could have had. I mean, the first job I ever had, I worked for 2 months, was at Dunkin' Donuts when I was 15 years old, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. But every once in a while, I'll take a gig if I have to fill in the blanks. But it's gotten to the point where, because of what I've been doing, I don't have to settle for anything. I mean, I kind of drove out to here, California, on an impulse because I just didn't want to be in Florida anymore, and I had some stuff that I wanted to do out here, some work that I had lined up, and I left. And then stuff that I kind of forgot about, like 2 days in a row, like for like 4 days of work, I just got two different checks, for one for $730 and one for $700. I'm like, yay! I'll stay a little bit longer, and it'll be a nice little pad for me to, with the money I still have in the bank, to just cruise along and figure out what I want to do, and it makes it easier for me to figure out how I'm going to stay here. It just gives me that little more of a cushion, and it's a blessing, because some of the things that I was doing, like driving for Uber in um, in Florida and Virginia, it's a completely different market out here in California. So I would have to get a California driver's license, California register my car out here, and get insurance in California. And although if I stay here, I may eventually do that, but I found workarounds. And there's other things that I can do, and I just all of that has to do with just taking massive action and being able to brush off. Here's the interesting thing. I was going to say being able to brush off rejection, but I haven't been rejected at all. That's the crazy thing about this, is that bursting forth with just absolute confidence, just because you have the burning desire that you want something, and people respond to it. And yes, it's something that's trainable into you, but it's just like going to the gym. And I'll end with this, because it's been a very important lesson that I've had to learn in my life, especially dealing with grief. So I look at grief and even like a lack of confidence in a similar way. They're sort of like an untrained weakness in a way. But with grief, I found that it's like a heavy weight. You go into the gym and you lift a couple 100 pounds or even 100 pounds, and it feels really heavy at first. It's difficult. But if you keep lifting it consistently and in the right way, it gets easier. But I misspoke on purpose. It doesn't get easier, right? What's happening? You are getting stronger. I've been getting stronger, because gravity is not changing perceptibly. It's not it's not getting weaker that we can notice. The mass of those weights to objects is not getting less. In the same way, the grief is not getting less. In the same way, maybe a lack of confidence that somebody have, or a fear of rejection, is not going to get less. That's not actually what happens. You work on getting stronger. And when you work on getting stronger, that's when it feels like it's easier. But it's really the strength, it lies in you.